The Trump administration is trying to lay off some 200,000 probational federal employees,
sending shockwaves through the federal workforce. Thousands of workers have been fired.
I'm sad that I lost my job, but I'm also sad that I'm not going to be able to help these people anymore.
Don't forget, I got elected on the basis of making our government stronger and smaller.
This is more than unique. These mass layoffs are unprecedented in both scale and execution. For decades, politicians have campaigned on cutting big government, yet here we are, $36 trillion in debt, 2.2 million federal government workers, and an economy propped up by federal money. But do the politicians who built careers promising cuts actually want to do this, or are they scrambling to protect their own carve-outs? So the federal government employs 2.2 million people. Add in state and local workers, and that number jumps to 20 million direct government employees. That's 1 in 7 American jobs. This doesn't include the contractors, grant recipients, and industries relying on federal money. This is our economy, and now the administration is cutting it.
They wouldn't be complaining so much if we weren't doing something useful, I think.
Let's say it works. The Office of Personnel Management has directed agencies to lay off nearly all probational employees. So it's not just like new employees, it's also employees that have recently been promoted. It all sounds impressive, but what is it actually doing? Some cuts will trim excess. Many government employees do not actually work. They're placeholders waiting out for pensions. And if you don't believe me, then I do not believe you have worked in government. But that's not who gets cut first. The layoffs target probationary employees. The bureaucratic rot? Well, there's a reason it's sometimes called the deep state. The government employs thousands of safety inspectors: food, pharmaceuticals, aviation, rail, nuclear facilities, cybersecurity. Cut them and your airline tickets probably aren't getting any cheaper. Your beef doesn't really get safer, and your cyber infrastructure doesn't magically become hack-proof. What you do get: fewer inspections, slower responses, bigger disasters, and generally cheaper prices, but it comes with more risk. The same politicians who have spent decades talking about cutting government are now faced with the reality of those cuts. The second cuts threaten a military base in their district or contractor in their state, they'll panic. They'll tell you government is too big and wasteful, but then argue this one specific little itty-bitty program and grant is absolutely essential. Senator Jerry Moran,
Today I want to speak about a program that has shaped our nation's humanitarian efforts and made a significant impact on my home state of Kansas, a program called Food for Peace.
Take Senator Jerry Moran from Kansas. He's called for shrinking government and cutting spending, but now that USAID is on the chopping block, he's fighting to save it. Because Kansas farmers rely on USAID programs to sell crops abroad. He doesn't want cuts. He's fine with them if they hurt other districts. The second impacts his state's economy, suddenly this program is too important to lose. They're all guilty, from mayors taking federal infrastructure money while complaining about government waste to senators stuffing bills with giveaways. Even in my home state of Alaska, where for every dollar we put in, we get 2.4 in federal expenditures, I don't know whether to brag about that number or feel a little bit ashamed. Federal money isn't just a handout, it is a business model. But what I'm seeing is backpedaling, because I don't know if they ever believed in the cuts or if they were just using them for a fundraising strategy. It's like how on the left they raised money for 50 years to codify Roe versus Wade and then just never did it. I'm starting to think that shrinking the budget was the same as that, but on the Republican side of the aisle. And this brings us to the $2 trillion question, the part that nobody seems to want to talk about. Are cuts even possible without being broad, indiscriminate, and chaotic? Because for years, politicians made these promises of surgical cuts and delivered nothing. They say we need to trim the fat, not the muscle, but when it's time to cut, I've never seen it done with a scalpel. It's always an axe. If targeted cuts were easy, they would have happened already. So why haven't they? First, government bureaucracies, they're going to protect themselves. The second a budget cut is proposed, they go into survival mode, shifting money, slow-walking layoffs, and most importantly, cutting in ways that hurt the public first. Ever notice how every time a city tries to cut its budget, the firefighters and teachers are the first on the chopping block? Same game, bigger scale. If an agency has to take a hit, it'll cut where it hurts so Congress restores funding. Secondly, well, my district is special. My district is different. Because every member of Congress has pet projects. They love talking about waste, except for when the waste benefits them. Government isn't bloated, it's entrenched. And lastly, private industry is addicted to government cash. It's not just federal employees who depend on the government. Entire industries are hooked on government contracts. Construction, defense, tech, energy, Washington money flows through everything. And when it gets threatened, they lobby, they fund campaigns, and they make sure that the right people know that cutting their funding would be irresponsible. And so this is something I can't answer here for us today. Did and do these politicians actually want what they've been promising? Or have they been using it as a talking point for decades, only to scramble when the knife finally comes down? I mean, I have my theory, obviously, but let me know what you think in the comments. Because one way or another, the bill is coming due. And if they weren't serious before, well, they're about to find out what happens when their bluff gets called. And please, if you're into this type of political breakdown, like, subscribe, hit the stupid bell thing. Later.